I just feel fortunate that I'm in this position and I looked up to people every day, not knowing that maybe there would be one day where people look up to me. It's just super exciting to know that I'm a face that some people are kind of seeing and looking up to, and yeah, I'm just grateful for it.
Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that brings you inside the world of women's hockey one story at a time. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today's guest is Alexis Paddington, a smart two-way center who just wrapped up her collegiate career at Minnesota State University. The Thunder Bay, Ontario native now has her sights set on the upcoming PWHL draft, ready to take the next step in her exciting hockey journey. Alexis, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Good.
It's super exciting.
Good. Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know with the draft and all of these different things going on, I appreciate that you took the time out of that busy schedule to hang out with me for the next little bit. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, super excited.
Okay. Let's do it. So before we jump into your hockey journey, I want to start off with something a little bit lighter that's become a bit of a tradition on the show. We've got a quick segment here that we call Pick One. I'm going to give you two options, and guess what? You're going to pick one. It's kind of self-explanatory there. No overthinking, no, just go with your gut. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay. Early morning, early morning practice or late night game?
Late night game.
Yeah, there we go. Overtime winner or shootout hero? Oh, okay, yeah. Home crowd energy or silencing the away crowd?
Home crowd.
Okay, yeah. Which would you prefer, Northern Ontario cold or Minnesota cold?
Minnesota cold.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I've been up north, so I get that.
It's really cold.
Yeah, no one says I prefer that cold. Game-winning goal or game-saving block?
Game-winning goal, but game-saving block is also a huge play.
And I asked that question because we're going to get into it because it's a part of your game that I really enjoyed reading about. Pre-game nap or pre-game coffee?
Both. I need both.
I assume it goes nap, then coffee, then game.
Weirdly, it goes coffee, nap, coffee, which shouldn't be like that, but...
No, not at all. But good for you for still finding some way to fall asleep. I respect that. Home cooking or team dinner out?
Home cooking.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing beats home cooking.
Yeah.
This one I ask everyone, so I want to hear from you as well. Would you rather leave a legacy on the ice or off of the ice?
I think off the ice. I don't know. I think I'd definitely rather have people remember the things like in the locker room and outside of hockey, for sure.
Yeah, it's nice to have some records.
Yeah.
It's nice to, get some great goals and be appreciated on the ice. But I think long-lasting, the legacy off the ice probably makes a lot more sense.
Yep.
So I get you there. Yeah. That's totally fine. So that was fun. Thanks for playing along. Now we've already cleared the first segment of the show. We're just flying along here.
We're cruising.
Now let's get into your hockey journey. And it started, as I mentioned off the top, in Thunder Bay. With the Niebing Flames, and then you went on to the Thunder Bay Queens, where you took on a leadership role for your time there with the club. Could you take us back to those early days? What was, with those two clubs, what was it like playing for those two clubs, and how did you ultimately start getting into hockey? Let's start there.
Yeah. I started skating when I was 3. I actually did dance. So I would leave the hockey rink in a ballerina outfit to go to dance when I was younger, and it got to be a bit too much for my parents. So they were like, "You got to pick." So I ended up choosing hockey, and then from then on,
was it too much financially, or was it too much just to watch you constantly leaving the ice with
the back and forth? It was too much for my parents. Like, I have 2 younger brothers, so they literally drove their whole lives for my whole life, driving us everywhere. But yeah, so it was a bit too much for them. So then I chose hockey. I think I made the right choice.
So far, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was super fun growing up. We had an outdoor rink in our backyard. So I basically lived on the ice My dad and I would flood that every night. Like we had a little homemade Zamboni, if you call it, that we would use to flood it. So yeah, it was super cool. And then played boys hockey for most of my life, youth life, and then kind of realized like I wanted to keep playing and like go somewhere with it. And so I decided to play for the Queens, which is a AAA team. So we would travel to like Toronto and play in some bigger tournaments. And it was also just a lot of fun entering girls hockey after not really playing with other girls before and just having like that off the ice involvement and like hanging out. Met some of my closest friends that I'm still friends with to this day from that program. So
How was that transition going from boys hockey for so long to now
yeah,
finally being able to, play alongside some fellow girls as well?
yeah, it was the biggest difference was just like the locker room, I think. Like there were times where like as I got a little older, I was kind of in my own locker room and doing my own thing, which was okay, but then it was kind of like I didn't feel as involved. Um, but going to girls, I was like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I have all these best friends and they're all right here, and it was a lot more fun in that sense too.
Nice, yeah, and you had mentioned it just a moment ago. First of all, I love a great story, like origin story that has some sort of ODR involved in it. I just
Hmm.
feel like that's like a quintessential Canadian hockey origin story, and I'm
Yep.
all for it.
Yep.
So I love that, and the homemade Zamboni. I feel like I can picture it because I had one growing up. Not that I ever really skated very well, but we made one when I was a kid, so I think I can kind of picture what it may have looked like. Um, so sticking kind of with that family theme, what was it like for you to have the opportunity, maybe specifically with the Thunder Bay Queens, to be able to
Hmm.
play, the sport you're falling in love with in front of your support system, your friends, your family, the
Yeah.
people who love you? What was that like
Yeah.
for you?
It means the world still to this day. My family is my biggest supporter, and being able to play growing up and be able to have my friends, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, parents all be able to come watch me, it was just super special. And I kind of look at it now, and I'm even more grateful now that I'm older because obviously Mankato is a little further from home, so my parents couldn't come all the time. So I am super fortunate that they came all the time when I was younger. And they are all my biggest fans. So it's kind of fun knowing I got a couple fans. But
No, that's what it's all about, right? So I
mhm,
love when, despite the any obstacles, your friends, your family, they're always in your corner. They've got you. And like you said, I think especially now as you're embarking on this exciting next chapter of
mhm.
your career, having that fortune of hindsight adds some layers to how exciting this chapter is for you when you factor in, like your parents doing all that driving as you
Oh
were
yeah.
growing up, as you mentioned, right? Oof, oh
Yep.
boy. Yeah. Could you maybe talk as well for those out there who are listening, who are watching, who may not necessarily know about the culture, the environment that is Thunder Bay when it comes to hockey, when it comes to winter sports, and how you think your time growing up there helped kind of shape you as a player as well?
Mhm. I think the culture, it's a hockey town, especially in the winter. You know kind of everyone, and you also know everyone involved in hockey. And like I'm still seeing posts today of people I grew up with playing hockey who committed to go to another school in college, and it's just like everyone kind of follows everyone and supports everyone in that sense. And um, yeah, I think it's a cool environment to be in. And we obviously don't have well, we have a university team. We don't have D1 athletics in Canada, um, but we still have college athletics, and so many people turn out for those games. And it's growing up, I would go to those games, and it's super cool to see just how the community kind of surrounds hockey there.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say
It's
it is a really strong hockey community
yeah,
there,
yep,
right? and I don't
Very.
think people notice. I mean, because
No,
not everyone goes through Thunder Bay,
no.
but I don't think it's necessarily has the reputation that like, um, no, maybe reputation isn't the right word I'm looking for here, but like it doesn't have that prestige. Maybe like of a
Hmm.
Toronto. Like people hear Toronto,
Yes.
they're like, oh yeah, okay, like that's
Yep.
these sports. They don't really
Yeah.
necessarily think of Thunder Bay as being such a strong hockey community, but it is, and I think it's obvious that it had an impact on you.
Yeah. And I do think it can be a little overlooked sometimes. It's a small town. It's not a small town. There's probably like 100,000 people, but like you're kind of isolated. Like the closest city is Minneapolis, which is 6 hours. So you're kind of just on your own little, I always say my own little island there. So I think it's super important too, like to continue bringing our hockey community elsewhere and playing other places too, to help grow it and have more exposure for the people in that town playing.
Yeah, and overlooked was exactly the word I was looking for. So
Hmm.
thanks for bailing me out there. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Speaking of your time at or with the Queens, you were a part of, as I'd mentioned, the leadership team, captaincy, as well, including captaincy in your final season. uh, when you think about leadership, there's a lot of pressure that comes with being a leader, or I mean, there could be, I guess. There
Yeah.
may not be for some, but there is for the majority of us. There's a lot of pressure that comes with being a leader. You want to be able to be a great leader, and you, at such a young age, you're figuring out yourself, and you're
Yeah.
now figuring out how to be a great leader. Um, what did that time as being like as you evolved into a captain with the team? How did that come to be, and how do you think that shaped you, or that time becoming like going through the captain or going through the leadership as an assistant and then as a captain kind of shape you as a player?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing was kind of just looking at the people around me and how they would handle that role before I got that role. Um, and I think still to this day, I'm still just learning from the other people around me on and taking little bits out of their book and someone else and just trying to continue to learn and just do the best that I can. And I think growing up, like I had a lot of great support around me to help me be successful in that role. And obviously, it's not just one person as well. And I had some great teammates who were right alongside me, helping me out. And we were just super successful because we were such a tight knit group and super close. And I think that that's kind of how I learned a little more about leading. And you're obviously 16 years old. You're you're young. Like I didn't even drive a car at one point, so I'm
Well, and
like,
that's exactly why I wanted to ask this
yeah,
question, right? Like you're getting your license, you're doing, and it's like,
yeah.
oh, also
You're in
I'm a
high
captain of
school.
a team. Yeah,
Yeah,
no big deal, right?
yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
And I think my dad he's a super big role model. Like I look up to him every day, and he kind of set out a really strong foundation for me as well to follow. And my coaches throughout the way, like just so many people, like had an impact on kind of how I grew as a person and player, and still do. And I'm super grateful for that to continue to have those role models in my life.
I know I'm asking you to recall, a number of years ago, but I'd still like to know. Anytime I get the chance to chat with someone who was or is a part of a leadership team, I always like to ask what leadership means to you. So for you, whether that was back then, whether maybe that's in hindsight now, or as you're looking at this next chapter, what does leadership mean to you?
Yeah, I think there's no definition for it, in my opinion. Like, I think there's just so many ways that somebody can be a leader. And, like, I kind of look at even just my time throughout my 4 years here. Like, there were the people in the locker room who you might not have heard say a word, but would go out and work their butt off every shift. And to me, that's somebody who's leading. Or there were the people in the locker room who would speak up and say, like, what we needed to hear, even if it sucked. And I also think that's another way of leading. And I think there's no right or wrong answer for it. I think it's more just kind of everybody does it in their own way and everybody sees it in their own way. And I think it's super cool. And I think that's what makes a team super unique as well, is having just so many different people of different backgrounds leading in their own way.
Yeah, and I think as fans, we often get hung up on the letter on the jersey, right?
Hmm.
Like we want to know, oh, there's no captain of the
Yeah,
team who's gonna get the letter, when
yeah,
really in the room you're like, we're all leaders here. It's just we
yeah.
just do it in different ways.
Yeah, and we had a really senior heavy team this year, and I think that contributed a lot to the leadership because there was 10 of us. Um, and so we all contributed in our own way to help our team and try to show the underclassmen a little bit about what Mankato and our culture is about. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue into this next segment, this next chapter of your career, and that's your time at Minnesota State. So I guess before we get into your time there, again, this is a great opportunity because you're Canadian and you went to the NCAA. I need to ask you. I'm compelled to ask you um, what it was about NCAA that drew you there as opposed to U Sports.
I think it was just more competitive. It seemed, I mean, I guess I wasn't in it before, but it seemed more competitive. There were more opportunities through school, and I'd kind of always like had wanted to come play here and or like in the US and just because it's considered the best. So I wanted to try to make it to the top and do that the best I could. So
Well, and especially for you too, like you'd mentioned, Thunder Bay, Minnesota, like that's it. It almost feels like that. I mean, again, I know that it's a bit of a trip, but it still
yeah,
almost feels like your backyard kind of thing. So maybe
yeah.
did you feel like that probably, um, looking at what that next chapter could be, and maybe there being some nerves about taking that step, having some familiarity with where you were looking at, do you
Yeah.
feel like that kind of maybe compelled you a little bit there to go there as well?
Yeah, I kind of my recruiting process was kind of between two schools for most of it. I'd talked to out east, I'd talked to a lot of WCHA teams, but I ultimately knew I wanted to play in the WCHA. And I kind of narrowed it down to UMD because it's very close to home, and then Minnesota State. And I toured here, I think, two times only in my whole high school, just because of COVID and the borders and all of that. And I came here and like instantly was just like, yeah, I want to come here. Like it just felt like home. I don't know what it was. Like I toured UMD and I didn't get the same feeling. And I was like, I think this is a sign.
Isn't it
But
crazy when you
it
like
was
it?
weird.
Yeah, it's not one of those things where you're just like you think it's just a school, but
Yeah.
you really do get that feeling.
Yeah.
That's a wild thing.
And I didn't believe when people would say that either, like when you're touring. And I was like, no, like it's not going to happen to me. And then all of a sudden I tour and I'm like, oh my God, like I actually do feel at home
Oh, now
here.
I
Like
have to
it's
eat my
weird.
words. Oh no.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But
What was it like, making that adjustment to, going from Thunder Bay now to the NCAA? It's a big step. What were some of those challenges that you had to overcome in making that adjustment, and how did you overcome them?
yeah, so my senior year of high school, I actually had knee surgery. So I
Plot thickens.
didn't
Okay.
I didn't play a game my whole senior year between COVID and my knee. So coming into college was very nerve-wracking for me because I hadn't played a game in a year and a half before I went into my first college game, and that's a long time. So I think the biggest adjustment I noticed was the speed. It's just such a faster game, physically and mentally, and just the skill level. I think as well. It's increased. Like everyone is really good, and so that was a big adjustment. And especially like coming out and not really playing games, like I was a lot more determined that off season to really come into the year and not make it look like I hadn't played it for a year and a half. So yeah, I think that was the biggest thing was just the speed of the game and watching, even just like the age too, I guess, because when I came in as a freshman, the fifth year rule was allowed for everyone before me. So we had fifth years on our team who were like 23, 24, and I was just like a little 18-year-old. I'm like, hey guys, hi.
Uh,
But yeah,
how did if we could go back just for a second, just because you kind of casually mentioned knee surgery. Um, for you, like as an athlete, just in general, like not being able to do the thing that you love. And
Hmm.
I'm someone who had knee surgery and I'm not an
Yeah.
athlete, and I know how much
Yeah.
it drove me crazy.
Hmm.
So how did that time where you weren't able to play
Hmm.
maybe, fuel your fire for when you did get back out onto the ice? What was that
Yeah.
experience like for you?
To be completely honest, at the start, I was just down bad. I was kind of like, people sugarcoat it maybe, but like really when it happens, you're kind of just like upset. Like there's nothing really else to say. But I think moving forward from that moment when I was upset was like the biggest turning point for me, and how I handled the not being able to play. And I think you kind of just have to stay involved. And like for me, it was like I'd go to the rink and still stay involved with my team, or I'd surround myself with people and just stay busy, like do what I can, don't rush it, just take the time to heal. And like obviously I was looking ahead to 4 years of college that I had. Like I didn't want to, rush back and re-hurt it or anything. So I was kind of just really taking the time to like make sure everything healed properly. I was doing everything right. And like even going into that summer coming here, like I was still like getting back into some exercises I hadn't done, and like just taking it slow and like not feeling the pressure of like needing to lift as heavy as I can. It was more just like trying to get back into doing it right before. But yeah, it's obviously not an easy situation to be put in at all.
Well, yeah,
It
because you're
sucks.
always like, as an athlete, you're just like almost programmed to
Yeah.
constantly be saying like, how do I continue to push myself?
Yeah.
And that's the exact time when you're like, everyone's saying, don't push yourself.
Yes,
Take your
exactly.
time. And, as you mentioned, when you're lifting, you slowly work your way back up to where you were ready, where you were before. When in your mind, you're like, but I was already there
Yeah.
and I should be doing more than that, you
Yeah.
know?
It's like a
Um,
ladder. You got to just slowly go up one step at a time and not rush it. Like I think that was weirdly one thing I was pretty good about, was not rushing it. And if anything, I didn't rush it enough. My
mhm.
parents were like, "You can do this," and I'm like, "Can I?"
Yeah.
Like, but
So how do you think that time maybe made you into a better player? Because we've kind of heard that, that it made you a better person. But
mhm,
on the ice, how did maybe was there did you feel a difference when you came back? And
yeah,
once you're back up to 100%, there's a
yeah,
bit of a runway there, but once you're back up to playing speed, did you notice a difference in how you approach the game, how you approach
yeah.
training, nutrition, all of those different things as well?
Yeah, well, I remember the first time I had skated, I was like pretty in my head about my knee. I was like, oh, like, can I turn on it? That kind of thing. And I think going in like that whole summer, I was fighting that mental block and I could do it. It was just mentally. And I kind of just had to like, I think I kind of just hit a switch where I was like, you're good. Like, you're okay. Like, you can do it. And I'd slowly start challenging myself with like, I do like single leg, like turns, like little things like that, just by myself, like messing around. And I'd do it and I'd be like, oh, I can do this. And then it would kind of contribute into like the team things or the group things where I was doing that without even thinking about it. And so I think it was just overcoming that like mental side of it on the ice. And once I did that, like it was like it never had happened.
Smooth
So
sailing from there.
yeah.
This episode is brought to you by MB Performance Nutrition, fueling the next generation of hockey players. Whether your athlete is just starting out or chasing next level performance, MB Performance Nutrition has free resources to help, like a meal timing guide and protein powder buying checklist. Founded by Melissa Bufunos, a certified holistic nutritionist and former elite hockey player, MB Performance Nutrition also offers one-on-one coaching, team workshops, and more. Learn more at melissabufunos.com. That's MELISSABOUFOUNOS.com. Another thing that I think as fans of the college game, we don't necessarily think about is that it is for you more than just what happens on the ice. There's also academics, and what I've been told about as well is a social life. So, how did you find or how did you manage being able to balance all of those things while still being successful in all of those things?
Yeah, you're definitely very busy as a student athlete. But I think like the biggest thing, which I'm sure people say all the time, is just time management. Um, for me, like I knew what time my practices started and ended. I knew what time I had class every day. So what was I doing in my other time to make sure I was completing everything I had to do? Like if I had class from 2 to 5, like I'd have 5 till bedtime to do homework or hang out. And during the week, like I live with 4 of my teammates, so I'd hang out with them outside the rink anyway. You kind of have to if you live with them, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
loved
You're
hanging out
stuck
with
doing
them.
them. Yeah, 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 yeah,
But yeah, so like we'd sit in the living room and not talk for hours and just do homework or watch like Love Island or The Bachelor is huge. We'd always watch that.
yeah. There it is. Yeah,
We do watch parties with like our team and the guys' team sometimes and just like sit and like watch it and scream at the TV.
yeah. Of course, yeah. As one does. Yeah,
You have to.
yeah. Yeah. It's part of the job.
But yeah, that's kind of like I would say those are the things like that are most important. You know what you have to do, and it's what you do in your spare time to ensure you're successful.
Yeah, time management. Whew.
Yeah,
That's an important life lesson. That's for
yeah,
sure.
you need to
Uh,
learn it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like it's important.
Sometimes it hits you like a ton of bricks. Other
Hmm.
times you're prepared for it.
Yep.
I want to give you a chance now because we're almost at the time now in the show where we're gonna talk about what's next. But with your collegiate career behind you now, I mean it's still freshly behind you, so I want to be mindful and respectful of that. But still, it's behind you. Um, I want to give you a chance to just kind of reflect. Like, what was it like going there? Was it everything that you wanted it to be? And also equally as important, selfishly for me, is to hear whether or not like how your time at Minnesota State helped you to grow both on and off the ice.
Yeah. It was everything I expected and more. I have zero regrets coming here. Like I'm so happy I spent 4 years here, and I'm very sad it is over. Had to say some goodbyes a couple weeks ago when graduation happened, and I was like a mess.
Yeah, it
Um,
sucks. Yeah,
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 and
yeah,
it's crazy because it really doesn't. I never believed anyone when they were like, it goes by so quick, and then all of a sudden I'm in this position. I'm like, oh my God, they weren't kidding. But yeah, I think it was just time well spent. Like I had so much fun. I have lifelong friends off the ice and on the ice. I feel like I developed a lot as a player, and especially like this year, I felt like I just kind of came through to another level that I didn't know I had in myself, and it was exciting to see that. And I had great people around me helping me do that as well. And yeah, I think it was just overall a really fun year for me, and I think that was the biggest difference is I really just wanted to have fun and really enjoy it, and I did.
and what a year you had, or obviously what a collegiate career you had overall, but especially this past season. So that's fantastic. I love when it's like it's a bit of a pleasant surprise that like
Hmm.
something just happens and it just everything kind of falls into place and you have an incredible season and you did.
Yep. Thank
Um,
you.
one of the other things that I was really fascinated about when I was preparing for this conversation was something that's really important to you and something I don't mean to keep saying it, but something that fans may not necessarily have the opportunity to learn about is some of the additional stuff that you do away from the ice, and that's volunteer work. It's something that's clearly really important to you. Animal shelters, things like that, which is fantastic. Um, I don't know how to really segue into this question, so I'm just going to ask,
Yeah.
what drew you to volunteering?
Yeah. I grew up volunteering with either my dad or with my school with hockey, so I've been around it for a long time. And then obviously those are things that you supposedly have to go to with your team. But for me, this getting into the college, I had spare time on my hands, and I couldn't get a dog in college because that was too much. So I kind of decided I'm like, I'll just go like dog walk once a week and just hang
Scratch that
out.
itch. Yeah.
Yeah, and then honestly, like it didn't feel like anything other than just like hanging out with dogs. Like obviously I'm sure it was making an impact for them, and I'm happy that I was able to help them out because obviously animal shelters, there's so many animals, like they can't keep up sometimes. But for me, it was just super fun to kind of be outside and like play with dogs, like, and that kind of drew me to it because I loved pets. So it was nice to do that.
Well, it's nice too when it's kind of mutually beneficial where you're helping
Yep,
them out, but really they
exactly.
don't know that they're helping you out way,
Yes.
way more.
Yep.
So I guess, with these sorts of things like volunteer work and things like that, and maybe this is a silly question to ask, but is this something that, as you look at your future within the sport, is this something that you want to make sure you bring with you regardless of, I know that it's difficult when you're being drafted because you don't know where you're going to land, so you can't
Yep.
really let that factor into the decision, but is that something that's still going to be really important to you as you move forward throughout your career, is to connect with the community, give back to
Mhm.
the community?
I think that's one really important thing, and that's something that I found here, was just like a sense of community. I met so many people from all over Mankato and different parts of it, and I think that's something super important looking ahead that I do want to have, whether that's through hockey or through an animal shelter, like literally whatever. It's something that has always been kind of important to me, and even like looking at it from like a hockey point of view, like just being involved with the younger generation and being able to be a role model and help them out. And yeah, I think that's just really important.
Oh, you set me up with a great assist here. This is a perfect segue because I actually wanted to talk. This next few questions are around role models, and both
Hmm.
for you growing up and then now you being a role model. I want to start. You had mentioned your dad being a role model, being someone really important to you early on. If you want to answer this question by going with your dad, that's totally fine, and maybe expanding on what it was about him specifically as well. But who
Hmm.
were some of those role models, some of those influences for you growing up, and maybe even now, especially as you're looking at, this
Hmm.
is a really exciting time, but it can be really, this is
Yeah.
another big jump, right? So this could be another kind of nerve-wracking time. Having someone to look towards can sometimes be helpful. Who were some of those people for you growing up, and maybe now as well?
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah, my dad was definitely
Yeah.
one of them. He kind of just was always like hardworking in everything he did, and still to this day. And one thing that I just admire about him is he's always doing something new, and he's always trying to do something new, and he's like never stuck doing the same thing. And like that's something that I admire because I'm like, I can do that too. So I've like tried to start doing that. It's just like do something new or be like kind of fun and try something. So he's definitely one. And obviously hockey wise, he was my coach for a little while, and car rides weren't too fun if it wasn't a good game. But
Yeah, really.
aside from that,
Yeah, really enjoyed those good games all the more.
yes.
Then, yeah, yeah.
He was super hard on me too, which I am happy he was because I wouldn't have ever wanted to be treated lightly, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yep, yep.
So, but I would also say like even Michaela Cava, who's in the PWHL, she was a couple years ahead of me. So I never even played in college at the same time as her, but she played at UMD, and I was a Bulldogs fan a bit growing up because it was close to home, and I like she was kind of what sparked my interest in really wanting to play hockey in the Division One hockey. And even now, like looking at all of her accomplishments, and she's a hometown
I was gonna say Thunder Bay native,
connection.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
fair.
played with her cousin growing up, so it's kind of it's a small town. You know someone who knows
Yeah.
someone, but yeah, I definitely looked up to her, and Haley Irwin as well, who's from Thunder Bay. Got to meet her a few times and see her gold medals, which was super cool. So just kind of looking at those people, like that's what I hope to accomplish one day for the younger girls. Just being that face that comes back and can help people out, or whether it's coaching or just answering questions like in any way.
Yeah, great job shouting out Haley Irwin as well, because she's here in Ottawa, obviously, as an assistant coach. So play to the fans. I appreciate that. So when you think, and you kind of answered it, so I'm going to ask it in a bit of a different way. When it comes to you being a role model, because growing up, especially unfortunately for so many girls, it was like, I often hear, I just always dreamed about playing in the NHL. Like that
Hmm.
was the only option you had, right? And
Yep.
there were female athletes out there, but it was really difficult to actually watch them, to see them
Yep.
if they weren't in your hometown. But now with this visibility, even here in Canada, being able to watch a number of, like I think about the Beanpot Championship, a number of NCAA games here in Canada, there's a lot more visibility. So being able to be able to look around and see more people like you is making a difference. But for you, do you feel like first of all, how does it feel to be a role model? Let's start there. How does it feel for you to be a role model for so many now in this next generation?
Yeah. I just feel fortunate that I'm in this position, and like, I looked up to people every day, not knowing that maybe there would be one day where people look up to me, and it's just super exciting. And to even just go home and, I see someone who's playing for the Queens right now, and they're like, "Hey," and I'm just like, "Hi," like get to know them a bit, and it's just super exciting to know that I'm a face that some people are kind of seeing and looking up to, and yeah, I'm just grateful for it.
Do you feel any pressure to make sure that you live up to potentially those expectations?
Honestly, no.
Okay, that's fair.
Um,
I like
I
it. I like
kind
it. That's
of,
fine.
I kind of just think about it as doing the best I can, and if my best is all I have, then that can be good enough. And if it's not for someone, then oh well.
Good, good answer. Good answer. What a great role model you are. That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really, yeah, and it's true. It's true, and
Yeah,
it
and you
applies
don't
to
have to be perfect. Like I never expect in like walking to something gonna be perfect. Like nobody's perfect, and I'm gonna mess up or say the wrong thing at times probably, and do on the ice make the wrong play. Like it happens. So I feel like that also is something you kind of look for in someone. It's like, oh, they made a bad pass too. I've done that. Like just little things. Like nobody's perfect. So
And that is music to so many young players' ears, where they feel like they have to be perfect.
yeah,
There's a lot of pressure to be successful. So to remember that, what, success actually comes a lot, it can come from failure as well, right? So
yep, exactly.
making those mistakes. Um, I want to shift now to this next phase, this next chapter, this next book for you, and that's the PWHL. So, first of all, congratulations on declaring for the upcoming PW draft. How does it feel?
Super exciting. Because obviously growing up, I never thought I'd have the opportunity to even enter the draft for it. And going into college, it was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna play my 4 years and go get a 9 to 5 job and be done. But now knowing that there is the league, I was like, I need to enter. So
Okay, well, I was going to ask you what went into the decision making process, because
yeah,
I think, especially because it's so new, there are a lot of variables that I'm sure
yeah,
you discovered firsthand. But maybe, you don't obviously share what you can, but what went into the decision, and what was that process like for you as you realized, like, it's more than just saying, one day I'm going to play in the PWHL. It's like, now I have declared for the like, it's
yeah.
real now.
It's real.
Yeah. Yeah. So what
Yeah.
went into that? Like, what, how does that, how does all that come to be?
Yeah. I think everyone has a different story for it, obviously. For me, I had a surgery again this year, actually. So I missed 2 months of my senior year, and those 2 months were miserable to say the least, and I just wanted to be playing. And coming back from that motivated me a lot because I was just so happy to be back. And when, like, I just remember vividly when the buzzer went in our final game of playoffs when we lost and like college was over. I'm like sobbing, obviously. And I kind of like, I was like looking down at the ice and like it went through my head. It's like, yeah, I'm going to keep playing hockey. Like, I don't want to be done. And like, because having that like thought of like that actually being my last game was like, no, that's not
Totally.
happening.
Yeah, talk about a motivating factor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, and then I took a week before I really decided anything, but I was pretty sure that's what I wanted to do. And I called my dad like a week later after our season ended, and I was like, "Yep, I want to do it." And he was like, "Okay." So, and he was super excited for me, obviously. So,
Well, and when you think about, and I appreciate earlier you had mentioned, that there wasn't necessarily a path, right?
mhm,
Like, and for so many girls growing up, there is no path. It's like you get through college, and then it's like you either hope that you get selected to the national program, you have to go to Europe, or like you said, you get a regular 9 to 5 job. You actually, you end up falling back on the degree that you ended up getting, right? But now there is that potential for that next step. Um, and when you think about the PWHL, like it's really exciting. It's a really exciting time for women's hockey. It's long
yep,
overdue. I can't
yep,
stress that enough.
hmm,
Um, it's really exciting. We're seeing record turnouts, record breaking attendance, whether that's
yep,
in the PWHL, whether, most recent Women's Worlds, over 122,000 fans made it out to that tournament, which is just wild and
crazy.
amazing and crazy.
Yeah,
What are you most looking forward to as you embark on this chapter in this exciting new league?
yeah. I think the thought of being like a professional athlete is really exciting and something I had never thought could have been possible. And I think that I'm also just excited to hopefully have the opportunity to play in the league and play against the best players in the world. And like some of those players are players that I watched like growing up that are like were my idols growing up. And like the thought of having like the chance to like play against them or with them is like insane. Like it's I still can't wrap my head around it, to be honest.
Yeah, and I also think about like imagine being in like the stall next to that
Yeah, like
your
they're my neighbor.
yeah, it's like, oh my God, play it cool, play it
Yeah,
cool.
like
Yeah, yeah.
don't say anything weird.
Don't say something
Yeah,
stupid. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I love that. And I think it's an important question to ask, and that is, how on earth do you prepare mentally and physically for this step? That's something that I'm sitting here, and it's like, again, it's easy as a fan. You're like, yeah, you just get drafted and then you go,
yeah.
but there's so much that happens behind the scenes. Like, how do
Hmm.
you mentally prepare? And have you noticed that your workouts have changed? How you physically prepare has changed, especially now with physicality?
Yeah. There's definitely lots of conversations that happen behind the scenes, and it's a busy time. But for me, I'm just trying to stay in the moment, like day by day, and really not overthink or think too much about it. And kind of just put my head down and do what I can to get better in the weight room or on the ice, and like just stick to my own path. And I've been lifting. I'm still in Mankato right now, so I've been working out here with some girls coming back next year. So I've been doing that, and then there's some open ice times around. So I've been just kind of trying to do what I can to stay in shape and also in a good headspace about it all.
Last question before we move on to the final segment of today's show. I want to know from you what you think might be the biggest challenge for you in moving from the NCAA game to the PWHL game, especially as you'd mentioned, the surgery and all that sort of stuff as well. That what does that hurdle for you look like?
Yeah, I think definitely speed. I always say it in any game. Um, it's always getting faster, and it's something that is something you always need to get better at. And I think that's something that's going to change for sure, moving up to the next level, as well as physicality. Like the league is just very physical, and obviously the WCHA was a very physical league as well, and super competitive. But I'm sure the next level, I can only imagine from watching, it's a lot more. So I
Yeah.
think those are the two biggest things.
Okay, I promise this is going to be the last question before the next segment, but I want to. I realize that I only briefly described your style of play, but I
Hmm.
want you to share with anyone, with all of us, for anyone who hasn't heard or hasn't seen you play, how you would describe your style of play.
Yeah, I think one thing is just intellectual. I kind of find the pockets on the ice to be open and then score. But I also think defensively, super important, especially as a center. You're helping out everyone, so you need to be down low and helping people out, blocking shots and making the plays to get up the ice and score. And I think kind of just two ways and playing both ends of the ice the best I can. This year I was fortunate to be set up a lot by my line mates, so they put me in a really good position, which is always great. But
yeah.
Well,
here's hoping you get drafted in Ottawa. That's all I'll say. All right, so now we're going to wrap up the show with the other tradition of these shows, and that's the rapid fire question segment of the show. So basically, this is only rapid fire for me because I'm going to try not to ask any follow-up questions. All right, so that's the challenge. Now I'm being put on the spot here. So I'm going to throw you some questions here. You can take as long as you'd like to answer them. That's totally fine. Don't feel rushed. I'm just going to try not to ask any follow-up questions. I'm going to fail. So just prepare yourself for that. Are you ready to take the test?
Yes.
Okay. What is your go-to pregame meal?
I eat a PB&J before every game. Like I have to.
Honestly, I was not at all prepared for that. I thought it was going to be chicken or something. I was not prepared for that.
No, I need to have it. I have like either a half a one or a full one, depending on how hungry I am, like right before I start putting my gear on. And like, if we don't have jelly or peanut butter, we got to find some.
Okay, so that answers my other question, which is, do you have any superstitions or pregame rituals? I would not have thought again that eating a PB&J sandwich would fall into that category.
Yeah.
What happens if you don't?
I don't know. I don't test the waters.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, don't ask silly questions. Yeah. Got it. So, okay, now we're going to kind of from pregame meals to your favorite cheat meal or a treat if you don't actually have a full meal.
I don't know if this would be a cheat meal, but we go to this place in Mankato called Shogun Hibachi. It's like a sushi place, and we're like on first name basis there now. We go too much, but that's like my favorite thing to eat here. Just like hibachi and like noodles and rice and steak, whatever. It's like, honestly, it's not terrible for you, I don't think, but it's so good.
I mean, that's what I keep telling myself. So
yeah,
that's
can't be that bad. I had it yesterday.
Oh yeah, okay, that's fair. Yeah, and you're fine. So we're gonna shift gears now to music, the music section of these questions. What's your go-to pump-up song?
It's called Friday, but I don't know who it's by, and I actually got like people yelled at me because I played it too much in the locker room and stuff. So it's really fun though. Like on a Friday, listening to a song called Friday, like
I mean,
how could you go wrong? It makes sense. It's right. Like
it feels right. Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know as well, who owned the dressing room music? And I mean, maybe it was you. It sounds like at least whether the rest of your teammates planned it that way. It certainly sounds like that was you, but maybe who else owned the aux in the room and what was played?
Yeah, there was about 3 of us. I would say before games, it was normally me. But in like before practice and that kind of thing, it was my roommate Shelby. And we'd go for like country kind of vibe before practice, or just like random songs that we like liked at the time. And then before game, I would try to mix it up between like rap and not doing rap all the time, because not everybody likes that. I like it, but so I'd play like, I had a throwback playlist of like old like upbeat throwback songs. That one was a good hit normally, but it's hard because you got to please like 22 people.
That's why I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah, and like I loved it honestly, and then someone's like, just play this song, and I'm like, no. Yeah. But then I would.
No, but listen, I'm the DJ.
Listen, I'm in charge.
Yeah, exactly. What's one thing people don't know about you?
I used to be in theater.
Oh, okay. It shows. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do like musicals, like in elementary school, not high school. So I would do those. I feel like I don't advertise that too often, I guess.
Well, now you just did. So.
But I just did.
Yeah.
So I'm musically inclined. It's no big
Yeah,
deal.
no big deal. No big deal. What's one word that your teammates would use to describe you?
I would say like spontaneous
Mm,
or energetic.
Energetic, I
Um,
could totally get from this conversation.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. What's something that remains on your bucket list?
I actually just crossed one off last week.
Okay,
Um,
do tell.
yeah, so I went to Colorado last week for a trip, and I went to Red Rocks, which was a big bucket list item to go see a concert there. And then I also hiked a 14er, which is like 14,000 feet in the air elevation. Yeah, yeah, I was down bad after, but I'm happy I did it and never do it again.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It's you cross it off the list. It doesn't mean you ever
it's
have to
done.
look out. Yeah, it's done. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. If you could talk to your younger self, what would you tell her about what's ahead?
I think I would just tell her to and remind her to just live in the present and not rush your life ahead and enjoy what you're doing at what age you're at. And I think that's one thing I've kind of observed from the younger generation is wanting to be older. And that's how I was too. Like you're in elementary school, you want to get to high school, you want to get to college. Like just enjoying what stage of life you're in while you're in it because you'll look back and realize that it's over and you'll actually realize it was a great time of your life. So I think just staying like grounded and in the moment.
Yeah, and getting older just sucks. That's all it does. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because a lot of the time, I often hear the phrase "be where your feet are." And that's exactly what I hear from that is just be in the present, be here, be now. And that applies to whether you're an athlete, whether you're not,
Anyone.
anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Last question for you before we wrap up today. When people look back on your career one day, which will be a very long career, what do you hope they say about Alexis Paddington?
Yeah, I just hope they remember memories and I hope that they remember the same things I do on and off the ice and like, I just think about like as people I remember from college and like what I remember about them, and it's nothing to do with hockey. It's everything to do with off the ice. There was a super senior I was super close with my freshman year, and I just remember her dancing in the locker room every day to the same song that was so annoying that nobody liked. Like I just remember that, and I think that's kind of how I want to be remembered is just the little memories and the things that I've done. Away from the rink and even at the rink too. But just like experiences and throughout college, like I had one teammate who we would spontaneously go to random cities like last minute, and like that's one thing I'll remember about her, and I think that's one memory that we have together, and just that kind of thing, just remembering the good times and maybe forget the bad but learn from them.
Yeah,
So
I love that. That's
yeah.
fantastic. That's a very positive look at it, and I love that. But what I don't
Yeah.
love is now this wraps this
Yeah.
episode of Rinkside Rundown. But I want to say a big thank you to you, Alexis Paddington, for joining me and sharing your story from your roots in Thunder Bay to stepping up in the NCAA. With Minnesota State, and now preparing to take on the next exciting chapter of your hockey career in the PWHL. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute blast having you on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Good, I'm so glad. And if you
Yep.
enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow hockey fans. Your support helps us to grow and bring you more inspiring stories just like this one from around the world of women's hockey. I'm Chris Sinclair. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Rinkside Rundown.